Today's Toy Spot, we are having a look at the NECA Toys Batman Classic TV Series Adam West Batman. This is the third figure that Spot was able to get from the folks over at NECA. NECA produced also a Christopher Reeve Superman and also produced a Heath Ledger Joker, both of which we've already had a look at. Spot has already looked at the Adam West Batman, but if you recall, it was the very tall, I believe it was 18 inches in height, very tall Batman. I love the piece, but I always thought it was a little too big, to be honest, to fit on a shelf. Also, the Michael Keaton Batman also was released in a taller scale until eventually getting scaled down to about a 7-inch scale. And I loved the Adam West Batman, but again, sizing was always a big issue. Now getting in a smaller variety is right up my alley. Down below, we've got a picture of classic Batman artwork. DC Comics also below that as well. On the side, we've got Batman and Robin. And on the back, Batman featured with a Batarang and Bat Communicator, which I think also were the two accessories that came with the larger original released Adam West as well. And below that, you've got the Batmobile. To check out more from the folks over at NECA, you can go to www.necaonline.com. And Spot's going to take a break and get this opened up. But when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the NECA Toys Batman the Classic TV Series Adam West Batman. There's more heading away, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Accessories to come included with Batman are a Batarang. Interestingly enough, there is a little hole on it that still remains from the larger Adam West that would have had a string through it. This Batman, however, does not come with a string, but it's interesting that that hole is still there. You also get yourself a Bat Communicator. And you also get yourself a couple of hands. One hand is flat, or I should say suitable more so for holding the Bat Communicator, Bat Walkie-Talkie. And the other hand, on the other hand is suited for holding the Batarang. Either of these hands are perfect options too. Unfortunately, the hands defaulting to Batman currently are closed fists, so I will definitely be switching these out for, even if I don't end up displaying it with the accessories, I'll be swapping the hands out at least, because then I can have the option to do so. Closed fists for me, I was generally switch them out for something else. The Batman has turned out very nicely. There's some, well, let's talk about the one thing I'm not crazy about first, and then we can kind of talk about all the other pros. I'm not crazy about the cape, to be honest. The cape doesn't quite sit perfectly. In fact, it kind of just, it ends up flopping around a little bit too much. I might be inclined, I don't know, depending on, I may not do this, I'm not sure. But what I was thinking about maybe doing is, because the cape is intended to be spread, because you can have Batman's arms out as if he's, you know, got the cape spread out, I might be actually inclined just to put like a little dab of glue. I'm not saying that you would necessarily want to do this, but I might take a little bit of glue, just a dab, and I might just pinch it in on itself to keep the cape closed and compact with itself. Because of that, I think it's just the material that they used. It's a good material because it looks a lot like the cape from the original series, but the end result, though, is it just kind of flops around a little bit too much. So I might put a little bit of glue on both sides to keep the cape fixed. Because I kind of, for me, Batman, I kind of prefer the cape to be more slender cape than really a big, bulky, wide cape. Other than that, though, I'm really happy with the figure. Let's have a look at his face. No denying whatsoever that that is Adam West. His eye seems a little on the crooked side. I don't know if maybe the... Of course, you can't lift this. You wouldn't want to try to damage that. But it seems like the one eye is just a little bit lower than the other. From a distance, though, you don't really notice it as much. But undeniable, that is Adam West Batman. Who else also, when you heard that Mattel was getting the Batman license for the classic TV series, got really, really excited, then got the figures, then looked at the figures, then thought, doh. Boy, oh boy. It was another one of, well, it was another one of Mattel's disappointing releases. Ghostbusters also was another one too. Just the Batman Classic Series line was disappointing at best. And I think the problem was that you just had the wrong company handling the property. I think if not for that, well, I think the line could have done well. If the line had gone right to NECA from the beginning, we could have got these kind of figures. Like, this trumps everything that we would have gotten from Mattel. And it's such a shame because I don't think NECA can acquire licensing to give us the rest of the figures. But imagine, like, looking at this figure, what would we have gotten with a Cesar Romero Joker? What would we have gotten with a Burgess Meredith Penguin? What would we have gotten with a Julie Newmar Catwoman? The skies certainly would have been the limit. And especially like even a Burt Ward Robin. You know, it had such potential, and yet, once again, Mattel slightly dropped the ball. NECA, on the other hand, probably we won't get anything other than this particular Batman figure, but this figure is like 10 times better than Mattel's release. It's not perfect, but I think the pros outweigh the cons. The other thing, too, about his suit, it's kind of very similar to the Christopher Reeve Batman. It's not very smooth. There's a texture to it that I think is almost a little off-putting to the actual figure. I wish it was a little smoother and it had less these lines running through it. Utility belt is a nice touch. It doesn't open up or anything like that, no extra compartments. But it does a very good job of looking exactly like how it did in the series. Just not crazy about the cape. The cape's the only thing I really would... Like, the texture of the fabric on the material of his costume, I can live with. I think the cape, though, is, on the other hand, is just something I might end up having to fix. The material is a very good choice. I just don't like how it sticks out as much as it does. Again, you can switch out the arms or switch out the hands depending on what accessories you want to have Batman holding. But just a really great figure. I'm so glad I was able to actually finally get this guy and do a review of him for you. When it comes to his posability, Batman, Adam West Batman, does have a ball joint in the head. It's interesting, though, that the ball joint, if you can actually see it, the neck is attached to the cowl. I guess similar to how it was in the series. So the ball joint actually is below that. And so you've got the movement, but everything kind of flows together because it's attached to the cowl. The upper torso doesn't feel like it's as rubbery. It feels like it's a more solid plastic, but he does have a ball joint in the torso, allowing for a crunch, as well as a swivel at the waist. Legs are a little more hindered because they're underneath his bat underoos. So the legs move forward and back, but not by much. Also swivels at the top of the thigh as well. Hinge at the bottom, or hinge at the knee, which also allows the lower leg to rotate. He also has a hinge and pivot point in the foot. And let's not, of course, forget the hands. The arms move out, rotate forward and back. A bend at the elbow, which also rotates the forearm. And a rotation and hinge in the hand. I think of the three figures, the Joker probably was, and I don't say my least favorite because it's basically like comparing all the great things, all the great figures, but of the three, I think Joker was probably the weaker of the three. My favorite was the Adam West and the Christopher Reeve Superman. NECA, again, delivers an astonishing level of detail for a smaller scale figure. It's a shame that sometimes wrong companies get the licensing for things when you always think to yourself, man, I wonder what NECA could have done with it. And, well, the proof is in the pudding. I wish I still had my Mattel Batman figures, but sadly, I think I sold them or I gave them away. I just really wasn't very happy with the line. That the whole time I was thinking, man oh man, I wish NECA could have done it. Today we're having a look, though, at the NECA Toys Batman the Classic TV series, Adam West Batman. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more Toy Spots heading your way. Thanks for watching. See you next time.